Hey guys, how's it going? So yesterday Apple announced product refresh on their MacBook line. So there were a bunch of different product releases. So the first thing is that the MacBook 12-inch has been discontinued, and the $999 MacBook Air, which was the cheapest MacBook that you could buy, is no longer available. I think for students you can still get a version of MacBook Air for $999. Otherwise the MacBook Airs are now starting at $100 more expensive. And Apple has released a 13-inch MacBook Pro. The rumors for that particular device was already circulating for a while, so I'm not surprised. So buried under all these new product launches is something very interesting, and that's the focus of today's video. So what I want to talk about is the 12-inch MacBook. So remember in 2015, 4 years back, Apple launched a 12-inch MacBook. And this MacBook was supposed to herald the new era of innovation from Apple. So there were a bunch of new things in this MacBook. The first thing was that it didn't have any port other than just one Type-C USB port. The most important change in this MacBook was that they introduced a brand new keyboard, which was called the Butterfly keyboard. You can go on YouTube and you can look at how Apple was boasting about how amazing this keyboard was, how thin it was. They had a new butterfly mechanism as opposed to the scissor mechanism, and that would make the keyboard like, they would shave off few millimeters from the width from the height of the keyboard. So there were a lot of so-called innovations. I put it under quotes, innovation, because at the end of the day the user was not really benefiting from any of those innovations. So the main goal or the purpose of doing these changes was to basically make the MacBook thinner. And sure, Apple succeeded in making that particular version of MacBook thinner by a few millimeters, but those shaving of few millimeters came at a cost. And the cost was that the keyboard experience was absolute garbage. The key had very mushy feeling. The key travel was reduced. As a result, when you were typing, it didn't feel like how it is supposed to feel when you type on a high quality laptop. And more importantly, the keyboard was fundamentally defective, and so as a result it would break down for normal use case. So one speck of dust could get inside the keyboard and could completely break the keyboard. And the problem was that you could not go and just replace that particular key which was misbehaving. You had to change the entire assembly. And so this has been a problem for Apple. Apple tried to fix it. They came out with 3 or 4 iterations since they launched it, and they still haven't succeeded in fixing the butterfly keyboard. So why am I talking about butterfly keyboard now? The reason I'm talking about this is because Apple has discontinued MacBook 12-inch model, the first model which came out with butterfly keyboard. And there are very strong rumors that next year they are going to get rid of the butterfly keyboard altogether. So every MacBook that will ship in 2020 will revert back to the old scissor style keyboard with some minor modifications, so that Apple can still claim victory and say that, hey, this is a new version of the keyboard. But the reality is that they will be switching to a type of keyboard. The fundamental mechanism won't be any different than, say, a ThinkPad from IBM or any other high quality laptop which comes with a good keyboard. Apple is reverting back to something which works. So here is my question. Why is Apple refreshing MacBooks this year, knowing fully well that next year they are going to be changing the keyboard completely? Now we all know that Apple does not have any confidence in their butterfly keyboards. That's why they are including this keyboard replacement guarantee, which they are giving on not only the older MacBooks but even the ones they are selling this year. So Apple knows that these keyboards are going to fail, and that's why they are including it in their keyboard replacement plans, even the 2019 model. So my question to Apple is, knowing that your keyboard is defective, and now we know that next year you are going to replace the butterfly keyboard with a scissor style keyboard, why are you still selling, or why are you still refreshing these MacBooks and you are including a keyboard which you know is defective? Your engineers have now accepted the fact that they cannot fix this design, and they are dumping this design in favor of the scissor keyboard. But Apple still is basically selling this laptops, the refresh laptops which they have announced today. They will be still selling it to gullible customers, and these customers will be stuck with this keyboard. Remember guys, when the next year when the refreshed MacBooks come with a better keyboard, you will not be able to bring your older laptops and expect that Apple is going to replace your butterfly keyboard with the scissor style keyboard. I don't think the new keyboard design is a drop in replacement for the older keyboard. The chassis of these laptops most likely is going to change, and so these newer keyboards are not going to fit into your existing MacBook Air or MacBook Pro or whatever you are buying this year. So what does that mean for current customers? So if you buy a MacBook Pro or MacBook Air this year in 2019, it's not a question if your keyboard breaks, because we know that the keyboard is going to break sooner or later. So it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. So I personally believe that Apple is basically misleading their customers. So by saying that we are refreshing our MacBook lines, knowing that there is a keyboard problem and a problem which is so grave that there is no fix for this problem, they are applying band-aid solutions, but it's never going to solve the problem. That's why they are running this replacement program. So in my opinion, Apple should not refresh any laptop this year, because in my opinion this is a malpractice. Now I understand it's a company, you are answerable to stockholders, so you need to come up with new product lines to make money, and that's exactly what Apple is doing. But my suggestion to anybody watching this video is, if you are interested in buying a MacBook, hold for some time, wait until 2020 and see what kind of keyboard Apple uses in the newer MacBooks, and then only you pull the trigger. You should not buy an Apple laptop, whether it's MacBook Air or MacBook Pro this year, because keyboard is one of the most important part of a laptop. It's one of the most important input device for a laptop, right? If the keyboard is busted, laptop is useless. And knowing that the keyboard design is faulty, Apple is still selling these laptops, and they are saying, hey, we will cover you under a warranty program, which basically tells me that they have no confidence in their keyboard design. I think it's a malpractice. So I'm very disappointed with the way Apple is behaving. I am not sure if Apple would have behaved like this if Steve Jobs was still around. I don't think Steve Jobs, because Steve Jobs, whether you like that guy or not, I will tell you one thing, he used to take immense pride in things he used to make. And after knowing that something was defective, he would not have sold it to the customers, and he would have scrapped that, and until they would have come up with a fix, he would not have basically allowed selling this. But unfortunately, Tim Cook is more of a bean counter. He's really not somebody who is interested in product development, or he doesn't really care. He's just there to count money. So all he knows is to increase the price of everything, whether it's iPad or the MacBooks, and just make money, and that's all he cares about, right? I guess that's why Wall Street loves him, because he just knows how to make money. But I think Apple is doing a damage to their brand in the long run by behaving like this. So that's all, guys. Let me know what you think about the new Apple laptops. What are your opinions about MacBook Air and MacBook Pro models? And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.